welcome to our podcast recording.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're our second victim in person, but it's kind of fun, don't you think, Chandler, instead of sitting on a computer?
I like it.
Yeah, in person so much better.
It is.
Yeah.
You get to kind of capture the real reaction. I think.
Mhm. Well, and for our podcast listener, Kevin invited me to lunch, and we were going to talk about real estate, and I said, can we record it? So we're just going to kind of see what comes out today. And you showed Chandler and I a really great new place to eat here in Savannah.
Absolutely. Cleanings is definitely one of my favorite spots.
Yeah. Y'all get to watch me stuff my face.
Who doesn't want to see that? I mean, we don't record that.
It's probably 4 days a week.
Is it? Okay. Shoot, you might get me hooked on it.
So you work a lot with real estate, specifically with pest control.
Yes.
So how'd you get into that? Like, that's not like a typical, like, I'm dying to be a pest control guy.
No.
Have you ever heard anyone say that?
Unfortunately, my main tech here in Savannah is third generation pest control. His grandfather was in it in Puerto Rico. Father fell in, and he's fallen in line since he got out of the military. So you do have people that have kind of a lineage there, this passion. And for me, I just saw a business opportunity. Made a pitch to a franchise that's based out of Statesboro back in 2021 to open an office here in Savannah. Use my network. I'm born and raised here in Savannah.
Yeah.
So just kind of capitalize on that. Complete change of industry. I've always been in the industrial world as far as crane operations and stuff like that.
Wow.
So kind of a big shift. But my biggest thing is I like people. I like to meet new people. And when you run a crane, the closest thing you have is the voice of radio.
Right.
So it just, I need to change, physically and can find a better place to land.
I've been in real estate a long time, and I've told a million people I've made way more money off of relationships than anything else. And it sounds like you're really capitalizing on that. So you own the franchise here in Savannah?
So,
Tell us about your business.
Easiest way to describe that is like an investing partner. So everything that I build up here in Savannah is building my equity into the partnership. Because I am starting basically a new satellite office, you could say. So everything that comes through is working to build my equity. Just kind of neat, doing the sweat equity side versus just having an investment and buying in. I feel like it's a little more appreciation when you do it that way. And it keeps that personal touch, the customer service side up, because each sale that I make, I personally do. So I like you said, build relationships with my customers. And it makes a big difference. So versus you jump into corporate and you're an account number and they don't know who you are. If you have kids, pets, they know nothing about you. So and that's what makes us different.
That's pretty cool. I think the service-based industry right now is I think it's a good industry to get into because nobody wants to do it right now.
Yeah.
And so that's like very interesting. Like nobody really wants to do it, like pest control, but like there's a lot of money being made in like any sort of service industry.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
probably a good for deals in real estate. It's probably a good way to find some good deals because you probably run into some pretty rough houses, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and what I'm curious about for our listener, I'm a buyer's agent, right? It's my job to get them a great deal. And part of getting a great deal in real estate is going, we've got an issue here. And I'm scared. I'm terrified. Oh my gosh, termites, right? Price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. So that's where, knowing someone like yourself where I can go, hey, how scary is this really?
Right.
You go, well, Julie, it can go up to 20 grand, but it's probably going to be 4,000 or whatever. Then for a buyer, that's a huge advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even from a seller standpoint and understanding on the real estate side that at the end of the day it's to get across that closing finish line.
Right.
And if I can be that middleman on both sides whenever it comes down to whether it's a pest control related issue, wildlife, termites, things like that, I'm able to remediate that, bring everybody together at one meeting point to push across that finish line. And that's something I really enjoy working with the real estate side.
Yeah.
It's just, making deals happen. So I've had some agents that are just like, hey, look, man, every time I'm with you, you're like the glue that holds this thing together. And I kind of, I took that to heart because, at the end of the day, that's what I want to be. Like if
Yeah.
that's, I can make it happen and the parties are happy. I've got a seller that could take me to their new home. I've got
Right.
a new real estate agent potentially, and I've got the new home buyers that we just gained as clients. So it's a win.
So tell us, like, how does that partnership work? Like, if somebody finds you to deal, but they have a big problem with pest control, and then they call you and they're, hey, you want to partner in this deal? Is that like how it normally works, or?
So what we'll do is anytime somebody calls a real estate agent, it's like, hey, look, we've got a deal. We need to have an inspection done.
Mhm.
So we show up depending on what's going on. We investigate, find out what the issues are. We do, and this is something we'll speak on Thursday night as well, a 10-point inspection, where typical companies do 4 to 5. And that's basically the minimum requirement on a wood destroying organism report. We take it obviously a few steps further and provide, just the pest control side, the wildlife exclusion. Something that's real big here in Savannah is the crawl spaces
Right.
in these older
Yeah.
homes, especially
Yeah.
when you're buying these flips. You've got these crawl spaces that haven't been touched in years, and we get to dive in and get dirty. And that's where you're going to find a lot of your issues are going to come from that crawl space.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, and just kind of hinting on what we'll touch on this Thursday. Super excited about, what we're going to dive into there. So with that relationship, we just basically, we come up, we figure out, hey, what's the problem, but not just the problem, what's the solution? So, and in creating a solution when there is problems is how you start building that relationship, because you become, hey, this guy can take care of it. So you're that guy for this person. So they're going to call
Right.
you.
Mhm.
And I was at a quad this morning, crawl spaces wide open. So if you're advising me as the buyer, what is your advice? Historic district, open crawl space. Obviously that would need to be addressed, I would assume.
Yeah, so when you have an open crawl space, you've got plenty of ventilation. So that's not a major issue. And then depending on if you have spray foam, just typical bad insulation or no insulation at all, you're open to wildlife, rodents, things of that sort that can infest, get in. So there's nothing really protecting your home for those larger pests and things like that. So there's multiple angles to look at it. The cheapest way is, you can do either horizontal boards, hardware cloth behind, or you can run lattice with hardware cloth behind. So the lattice is going to keep your larger cats, possums, armadillos, and the hardware cloth is going to go down to where your rodents, snakes, and things like that.
Does
So
that
you-
go into the earth? You dig it down?
You do.
Okay.
You do dig it down to prevent digging and getting under, as well as you create 100% barrier around the foundation.
And do you personally, can your company handle that?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Kevin,
Yeah,
I
so it
needed
is-
to know this 2 years ago. I've had so many people go, well, who can do it? And I'm like, a handyman? But they never really,
Yeah, so that's where we fall
Oh my
into on
gosh.
that 10-point inspection is exclusion law. So we can touch into sealing up those foundations as well as provide vapor barriers. And
Wow.
that's what really helps control that environment underneath your crawl space. That's going
Yeah.
to translate into the home, energy costs, things like that. So it really is a deep dive with something that you would think is just super simple, but there's so many aspects there.
What's the most common thing you find in crawl spaces, like
oh
in Savannah?
no. Do we want to know?
Termites?
Termites obviously a hot spot. We're in the red zone in the United States, the hottest zone for your subterranean termites. So that's obviously that's number one on the list. 2, you're looking at powder post beetles.
What are those?
It's a
Yeah, I
powder
don't know
post
what that
beetle.
is.
So it's a wood-borne beetle, very small. So if you ever look at in a crawl space and you see floor joists, that looks like somebody hit it with a bird shot. It's little tiny holes the
Like a
size of a
BB?
pencil. Yep,
Really?
it's powder post beetles.
That's not on a typical termite inspection.
That is a wood-destroying organism that's included in that report.
Oh, it is?
Yep,
So
I
do
had never
they
heard
eat
of
away at the wood?
they do.
They're like kind of similar to termites.
What would
very-
you rather have, termites or powder beetles?
Termites are going to destroy more wood
Yeah.
over a period of time than powder post beetles would. But as far as treatment-wise, both are pretty easy.
Okay. That's good.
With termites, you can run bait stations, you can do liquids, you can do spot treatments. With powder post beetles, you actually do a wood surface treatment with a product called Brokerage. So it also it breaks down any kind of like fungi and things like that, mold and stuff. as well as when it penetrates those exit filters, it kills the larvae near the consumer fluids. But what
Yikes.
plays into it is the moisture level. Moisture level in the wood and humidity in your crawl space. Those two things there is what makes it conducive for microbes.
Yeah.
So they have to have a certain amount of moisture in there to survive. So in having a vapor barrier, you trap that earth or the moisture that's coming up from the earth from entering your crawl space. It keeps it dry.
I have a house I need to get you on.
So,
It's for sure moist under there.
yeah.
Like, for sure. You know what I'm talking
I
about.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, Kevin.
You can
Kevin.
almost
You're
feel
costing
it
me money.
when you're, yeah.
Yeah, and with my experience in like being in the crawl spaces and going into homes, you can actually step into a home and know if that crawl space is properly ventilated. You can almost smell it. It changes the way that the entire atmosphere inside.
Yeah.
He's nailing me. He's nailing me right
Yeah,
now.
we're getting hit right now. I know the way. I know exactly the smell you're talking about. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it all. So that's a good thing to know, though. Like,
Right.
so if you're walking into a home, you're like, all right, I smell something. Like, obviously
Kind of have
something.
that musty, just kind of damp feel to it, and you know you're on a crawl space, not a slab.
Yeah.
Well,
That's where you're gonna look.
when I bought it, one of your competitors was the inspector, the pest control, and I won't say the person's name, and they're not a bad person,
Yeah.
but for 20 years I've called this guy Eeyore. Everything sucks. Everything is terrible. Blah 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 blah. So he gave his little Eeyore report, and I couldn't get away from the guy quick enough. And I'm used to issues with homes. I'm not scared of it. I was like, okay, yada yada yada. It's wet. I get it. But it was just so much negativity. I just should have listened better. But I've thought for years. I'm like, I know I've never known about a pest issue, but I know it's wet. And I can see where that would bring in a pest issue, which I probably have.
And moisture is 100% conducive conditions.
So when you have a buyer and you go in and you find an issue, but I really like how you're saying that you're not trying to kill the sale, you're trying to save the sale by going, you do have an issue, but here's what I can do about it. You have any stories on that?
Yeah, we had a home, out of town buyers. They were buying sight unseen, did the inspection, came back with active termites. So with the termites, it just ended up being in a garage wall. So it was about 20, 25 feet of wall that we ended up, had a contractor come in, pull the drywall to see just how extensive the damage was.
Mhm.
And at that time, the buyers ended up flying in, like I said, out of state. Agents from both sides of the listing showed up, as well as the buyer, the seller, and essentially I was there as a mediator.
Wow.
And this was one of those times I had to be the glue because they were prepared to walk away.
Yeah.
Um,
That's huge, though, that you
Fortunately-
have that mindset.
Fortunately, the buyer, not the buyer, I'm sorry, the seller was willing to say, hey, look, we'll cut the drywall off. We'll see the extent of the damage.
That's
have it
rare.
Professionally assessed. We'll pay for a treatment, remediation, and to have the drywall put back on. So in order to kind of like, hey, this is what needs to happen, we presented that to the seller. It's like, and then had the buyers come down, check it out before and after work, and everybody said, hey, we're happy, at the end of the day.
And I'm assuming termites in the wall is way different than if it was on the foundation, right?
So this happened to be a slab, a little bit different. So which there's not unless you have a structure that's 100% concrete, there's nothing that's impermeable to termites. I think it's literally a 32nd of an inch is all it takes for a termite to access your home. Whether you have slab, brick, you're up on concrete pillars, down
What about
tidy.
a block house?
If you have wood studs on the interior of the house without any protection, at some point they're going to pop. It's not if, it's when. So that's where having that termite bond, and the bond is actually that treatment, and what maintains that bond is just like homeowners insurance, is you paying that annual policy renewal. That's what keeps that protection. So that's essentially just like you paying your homeowners insurance, except we come out, we still provide an inspection each year to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, Chandler and I were painting an apartment a while back. Or no, we were about to rent it. I can't remember. We were sitting in the living room,
Renting.
and a termite flew onto my knee. And I had known you for a while,
Right.
but I hadn't had a chance to work with you yet. And boy, you came right out. That was a really bad infestation, but that was
Massive. We
I
walked
think I
in a couple
remember
weeks
those
later,
dresses, yeah.
like 1,000 of them.
Thousands.
Just dead on the floor. It was
And-
loaded.
I didn't want to hire you. Do you remember what I said? I was like, we gotta wait.
Yeah, you did. You really wanted to wait on that one.
I did.
So,
So,
But-
how bad was that one?
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10.
5 to 6.
Okay.
'Cause you,
It was very centralized as far as where the
Okay.
tunnels were coming from the soil to the structure, and the size of the tunnels. I mean, it had been there for a little while.
I'll never forget, you came over to me and I said, I can't do it right now. I've just been under construction. And you said, Julie, the arms are as big around, I mean, the holes are as big around as my arm. And I was like, I'm looking at your forearms and I was like, that's not good.
So that was in the foundation, right?
No, it was
That
in the ground,
in the crawl space.
in the crawl space.
So termites travel through mud tunnels. So
Okay.
that's how they build those, because termites have to have moisture to survive. So they build these mud tunnels that go up the side of it could be any structure.
I've seen those mud tunnels.
So they
No,
get the
actually-
water into your home.
So they just use the soil moisture to survive. So by building those tunnels, they hold that moisture in there, and that's how they get to the cellulose material in your home to consume. And you'll actually have I've got friends who are in the industry that have sent me photos before, as well as one of my techs up in Athens. He had a termite tunnel from the ground to a piece of copper tubing in the plumbing of a crawl space. So, hey, resilient creatures.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they'll.
Smart.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. They will find a way in.
So was that in the hallway in that property where those termites were? Was it in that hallway?
It was almost center of the structure.
Yep. You never went inside. Did you ever go inside? I didn't
No.
think you did. Yeah.
No, this
You were
was
in the
all-
crawl
all from
space.
crawl
Yeah, the
space.
hallway was terrible.
Well, what's so funny is like on the opposite side is a duplex. Same hallway had termites too that had eaten them.
Yeah, there was multiple tunnels.
Like the
on
same exact.
different foundation sections. So, and what they'll do is once they access that cellulose, so those mud tunnels, you'll see smaller ones that go up. That's exploratory tunnels. So that's what they do. They use that to find cellulose material, and then they signal, and because they're very similar to ants, so they're always touching each other, and this is what works with the termiticide. So they communicate where the food's at, and they bring it back to and from the colony. So they're constantly traveling to and from your structure to the soil. So whenever you apply the termiticide to the soil, they come into contact with it, and they constantly touch and clean each other.
Oh.
So they're passing that termiticide the whole way through the colony. So that's how you have colony elimination.
Those smart little things.
Wow.
I think that's pretty cool how you're almost not just pest control, you're like foundation too. Like
Yeah.
you fix foundations.
Yep.
That's
So
pretty cool.
and we really try to be a one-stop shop.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
the best thing you can do, because
Yeah.
versus having 4 different contractors,
Mhm.
then you have scheduling conflicts that this guy didn't finish before
Right.
this guy can start. So if you're able to have everything all in one,
Yeah.
it makes a smoother transaction for everybody.
Well, can I say there are a million people in the real estate industry and they're just sirens. Wow, we have a problem, problem, problem.
Right.
Okay, but who's going to fix it?
That's right.
Is always the hard part. I'm like, okay, I think we have a problem. Let me fix it. You know, let's, like I said, close the sale. Let's buy the property. Let's sell the property. So, I mean, the fact that you're not just a siren, you're actually a solution. You're like, we got a problem, but I've got to fix. And like, that's just huge.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you more business. See, I'm learning so much.
Good.
But we do have a lot of local agents that listen to this show.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be really interested in what you're saying. That's really fantastic. Huh.
Because
Yeah.
most people, when they hear like termites or some sort of bug, like they freak out and they'll
Yeah.
just walk away.
Right.
And if you can come in there and kind of, hey, it's not that big of a deal, like we'll get it fixed, it probably calms their nerves a little bit. Because most people just freak
Right.
out like crazy.
And then some people aren't even, they don't realize termites are a problem.
Yeah.
We had, obviously, y'all probably seen just like an influx as far as so many people coming from out of Georgia that don't understand the insects here.
Yeah,
And the
that's
fact
right.
that, termites are a serious thing. They've never had a termite bond in their life, never heard of a
Yeah.
termite, much less. So they come here and they're unfortunately, they're not educated on it. So yeah, at that point, it's like, if you have the wrong person working a deal for you, and you come across that, and these people don't understand it, of course they're going to back out right immediately. It's like, okay, well, this seems
Right.
like a big problem. You're from here, and you're freaking out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would trigger that flight or fight,
Yeah,
kind of
man.
going fast.
How do you feel about flood zones, properties in flood zones? Do you see more or not, maybe not necessarily termite, do you see more infestation issues in a flood zone or not? Or how?
Not really.
Okay.
It's going to obviously based upon soil composition, but being that in the low country you have cellulose material everywhere. Termites are here to break down that cellulose material. It's just part of this process. Being that it's so localized here is the humidity, the soil composition as far as moisture, temperature, and things like that. They thrive.
Okay, so at the flood zone, you don't see more moisture underneath homes in a flood zone versus outside.
It depends on how the home's built. Each home is
Okay.
going to be different.
Yeah.
Depending on where the water table is at that specific area, depending on how, where they sit on, if it's 10 feet above sea level or if it's 1 foot above sea level. So your water tables will be different. Then the closer you get to the coast, you're going to have a sandier soil versus your harder packed clay the further into the region you get.
Oh.
So things like that will affect,
Okay.
just how much moisture is there. So it's just, and you can kind of go down a rabbit hole on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So-
but as far as flood zones, I don't see an increase.
Okay, that's good.
Or a
I'm
decrease.
glad.
It's kind of just, pretty much standard. Now, where you do see into different species, where you not have Formosan termites, more aggressive termite per se, is the easiest way to describe that. So a little bit larger, they consume more cellulose per
Ugh.
pound than the subterranean, eastern subterranean. Those can actually, they swarm at different times. They come out, like instead of, midday swarming like a eastern subterranean would, these swarm at dusk, and they come out, they can literally land on your structure, create a colony before they even go down to the soil. So they're much more resilient. Now treatments are just as effective, but it's more in your coastal areas. You see them a lot heavier towards Hilton Head. We have started to record data here in Savannah. I think the last time it was updated was early 90s to update the Formosan termite map for the state of Georgia.
Wow.
So, and that just comes into doing the right inspections, properly identifying what you're dealing with, and then passing that along to the UGA people there.
Didn't we have a swarm recently on 50th Street? And it was basically a new build, but it was from a tree, like a rotten tree in the yard, and they were swarming into the unit.
So depending on what time, stuff like that, so they do get attracted to light. So
Ah,
if you have
termites are attracted to light?
most insects are, yes. So where you have especially these brighter white LEDs, the frequency of those is a lot faster than like a yellow LED. It's a lot slower. They're attracted more to that high frequency. So whenever you see a bug light or like a lamp, it's more of a yellow to orange tint. They say it's less likely to attract bugs. That's why. So whenever you have
We're learning a lot today, Chandler.
so whenever you have lights
Who would've
inside
thought?
your home, it does. Whenever you have swarms, it will
Yeah.
tend to attract. those
Okay,
swarms to
because that house is filled with LED. It's brand new. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's
And if
no
there's
way
one-
we have a termite issue.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I said, termites are going to be everywhere. So, and when they swarm, sometimes it's depending on the wind, or it can be it's something as small as a light. You have a lamp on the inside of a window illuminating that can attract insects to that.
So if you have a home in Savannah, even if you've never had a termite issue, you still want to go ahead and do a termite bond.
It's
And
not if, it's when.
yeah,
So I'm not saying that from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Like you pull any map, do a little bit of research, you'll find out very fast. Termites are here, they're not going anywhere. The only way to protect your home is to have a treatment in place.
So, let's say someone buys a house. What are like the things that you recommend? I'm
Yeah.
assuming bonds, but is there anything else that you're like, all right, you need to get on this?
and what should they look
ASAP.
for?
So when buying a home, obviously age up is going to matter because how well things are sealed up. crawl space or you own a mono.
Yeah.
slabs,
Let's say the
slab.
typical like older Savannah home.
So
That's
you're going to
normally.
be, your old Savannah brick. You've been the windows been updated, things like that.
Yeah.
So you're going to have cracks and crevices
Mhm.
where insects are going to be able to get in. So part of pest management is actually sealing things up,
Okay.
all the way down to your baseboards. So things like that you're going to look for to help keep the pest out, as well as just a general pest maintenance. Where you have a company like Pestmaster come out quarterly and do quarterly treatments. Biggest thing is setting up a perimeter for pest control. Obviously, bugs come from outside. You create that perimeter, you stop them from entering.
Mhm.
Some people don't like pesticides on the inside of their home, and that's why you push a perimeter treatment. So that's more or less once you close it, you get in it, you move in, you get settled. That's things you look for as far as the longevity and preventing pests from getting in.
Yeah.
Biggest thing, obviously, having your inspections done and due diligence. You want to know what's going on, and you want to have a professional tell you that. Not just, hey, I got a buddy, he'll come look at it. You want to have an official report, and what that report does is that guarantees that company says your home is wood destroying organism free for the next 90 days, and we have to back it. So within 90 days, if something comes up and there's active infestation, we have to retreat and repair it. So it's a huge liability on us.
Right.
And that's why we provide such detailed inspections.
What does like a home buying inspection, what does it cost? I have no idea.
Typically in Savannah, it's going to be $50.
Oh, that's terrible. Just kidding.
Right. Right.
I'm
So
kidding.
No, that's
very
not bad.
affordable. So, and like I said, for $50, that's a huge relief.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's going on.
And then in that report, you'll say you're good or you're bad, but you'll also provide a quote for like this pest control and sealing it up. You do this from the inside as well. Wow.
Yep. So if it has to do with pest control or remediation, you can take care of it.
I'm in a lot of drafty houses. I've been in like 6 already, and it's only Tuesday. So, yeah.
I want to ask, so like for some people, like if we're buying through a wholesaler, you don't always get to bring your pest control guy out, your contract. You kind of just have to go with your gut, kind of look at things. What are some things like for people that are like aren't a pest, like have any idea about bugs to like look out for? Just to get a general idea that, all right, that's probably an issue.
If you're looking, say, for like termites,
Yeah.
you're going to look for those mud tunnels. You're
I've seen
gonna look
those, yeah.
for
I didn't know
the
those were
damage-
termites.
The damaged wood.
What do you mean when you say mud tunnel? Just a hole in the ground? I'm sorry, I don't know.
So this is going to be like on the side of the structure or going up the.
Oh, the mud?
columns.
You've seen
Yeah,
them. You
it's
remember
just
you've
like
seen
a
that?
little dirt tunnel.
Yeah.
Now they can be this small or
Yeah.
the size of your floor.
I never knew that was termites.
I didn't
I've seen
either.
those little things.
And if it's active, what you can do is you can actually just kind of scrape that off, and
Yeah.
you'll see the soldiers still traveling.
They're
through.
still in there.
So if you see a live bug in that tunnel,
That's active. termites.
yeah.
But obviously, you want to take pictures.
See, that's
as
good to
soon
know,
as
though.
possible
That is great
so
to
you can
know.
identify.
Yeah.
What else do you look for other than the tunnels coming up from the ground? What else do you look for?
So a lot of times you won't see that on certain homes where you have stucco that's below grade. So obviously, when that happens, where the concrete foundation is in the stucco, you can have a gap between those that those termites can actually access your home. You won't see it until they're on the inside. So at that point, you're looking at
So stucco all the way to the earth. Oh, interesting. Okay.
So and there's certain neighborhoods in Savannah that have like every home in there is all stucco.
Right.
It's just there was kind of a time period I think stucco got really popular. I can't
Yeah.
remember the years. And you can see that those homes, without any protection, you were very susceptible.
And you'd never know the damage was there because that stucco is like concrete. I mean, you can't really get through it to check.
Until they swarm on the inside. That's how you know.
So they love stucco.
So at that point, it's kind of totally.
I had a house that I helped my buyers to buy, and I'll never forget. It's on a slab, and we thought the guy had lost his mind. The termite guy was there, and we walk in, and there's paneling in the living room, and just one of the rooms had paneling, and he's going, boom, boom on the paneling. And we were like, cuckoo, like we didn't know what he was doing. But finally, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, there's old tunnels in there, and you could hear him breaking behind. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I would never see anything like it.
Yeah. So that's part of our inspection too. You'll see us, we'll go and we'll tap on the baseboards or your quarter round, stuff like that.
Okay.
Usually at the base of your foundation, your first, what we call like a seal plate, that wood is always, I think this is code, that's always going to be treated. So 9 times out of 10, they tunnel and pass around that. But from there up, you just have your standard studs. They'll dive right into it. Now, your softest piece of wood beyond that is going to be your trim. So your baseboard, your quarter round, windowsills, stuff like that. The termites absolutely love it. It's super easy to consume, and they just go after it. So that's typically where you see activity first, if it's on the interior of your home.
It's always around the windows from what I've seen.
A lot of times it is. So, and you just learn tricks as far as whenever have a good flashlight, first and foremost. That's going to be your best horse or your best weapon whenever you're coming into this. Shine your flashlight along the walls, just kind of like, down the side. What that does, that shows all your imperfections.
So you're looking at it down the side like that?
Like down the sheetrock.
Yep.
Look, okay.
So that light will eliminate. What it does is it creates shadows and imperfections. You'll actually be able to see tunnels inside of
Through that. With a good light. Just a
That's so
random good
cool.
light? Nothing.
Just a good flashlight and shine it down the side of the wall. Just
See, that's
up
good
and
to
down and
know.
inspect it, just like that. And that's one way you're able to identify and find some stuff.
Cool. Wow.
Now,
I want to go do that now.
I need a
I've
flashlight.
been in a home where it 100% clear, did not see anything. And as we're running the flashlight up and down, there was a hole that looked like where somebody pulled a nail out for hanging a picture.
Yeah.
And when the light went by, literally the termite soldier poked it out and come back in. And that's
That was
just
it.
how
You saw the bug come out and go back.
So
Cool.
just that little bit, perfect timing, we were able to catch it. But
Wow.
there's no signs beyond that because you can't see through the walls, obviously. But through further investigation, opened some things up, and we were able to find it was active termites.
Wow.
That's good information to know.
So
I need a flashlight.
let's flip to cockroaches. First question, genuine question. We're property managers that sit us here. OMG, if a guest sees one termite, they assume, I don't know where this is coming from, but they go, it's infested. What is your answer as a professional?
As far as like you see one roach,
They saw one roach.
Yeah.
Is the home infested?
no, it's not. So especially in months like this where it's hot, you got these crazy downpours. Think of it like, do you want to be outside, just burn it up in this heat? No, you want to find somewhere somewhat cool, comfortable. So bugs are coming in. You don't want to sit outside when it's raining.
Yeah.
So they're trying to come in and find somewhere dry. So all it is just, it can be simply timing. They get in the smallest cracks and crevices in your door jamb, things like that, from the outside. And when you open the door, they're in. It just, because there's one now, depending on what species roach we're talking about, odds are there's not an infestation. There's just a couple because of where we are. You're surrounded by oak trees. You've got, depending on when the last time the place was treated, attic, there's cracks and crevices that roaches can get into the attic and then access from there. But that doesn't mean that there's infestations.
Does spray foam help? Like, how can we keep roaches out? Like, what's the best? Where do they usually get in? Any thoughts on like the biggest hole?
It's really, it's going to come down to how old the home is and how many cracks and crevices there are. Because that's where they're going to go. They're going to go for them. Generally, they're going to be at your baseboards where everything kind of gets butted up. So over time, you go through different hardwood phases or LVP or carpet that gets pulled and the quarter round comes off and it doesn't go back. Well, that quarter round hides that gap at the bottom of your baseboard. So if that doesn't go back, you now have this perfect gap the whole way around the entire interior of the home.
That's true.
Where roaches can go to and from the walls, which just on the other side of the wall is the cracks and crevices. So it really just comes down to just sealing everything up.
Yeah.
Not only is that going to help us, but it's also going to be more energy efficient too. So as far as if you're you're covering utilities, that's going to help you guys.
Short-term rental, yeah. I try to spray foam most of mine.
And hey, spray foam's fantastic. Obviously, if you get a good proper seal and everything, that's a huge benefit.
What about door sweeps? Do those help? Have you
Yeah.
seen good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's something that's used especially in the commercial industry with restaurants and things like that, keeping things sealed. Just it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Door sweeps, proper gaskets around your doors, windows, things like that. That all plays into it.
So do y'all seal homes?
We will.
You
Obviously,
see like a major.
Yeah, obviously, there's something major. This house, the home has 30
Yeah.
windows in it. That's where we can sub it.
Yeah.
Essentially, we'll bring in a contractor, handyman, things like that. But when it comes down to it, I mean, like silicone and baseboards, things like that, silicone in certain windows, doors, updating gaskets on doors, pretty much anything like that. Yeah. Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
jump on
'Cause, shoot, I picked up 2 yesterday. They were dying, but I'm assuming this was sprayed inside. So as soon as they hit inside, they were dead.
In our industry with the short-term rentals, it is 100% guaranteed that a cockroach is going to die right by the front door within an hour of check-in. Every time. I swear to you. You can
Yeah.
put money on it. You can ask Chandler. So we send people in right before the guests to find that dead cockroach because it's there. It's waiting on you.
Right.
I mean, what a horrible thing. But we're always trying to educate guests. The home
Yeah.
isn't infested, and we really can't actually keep every single bug out. We would love to.
Right. Yeah, that's why it's called pest management.
Yeah.
So you can only manage so much.
Yeah.
Because obviously everything that we do is governed by law.
Yeah.
We have to apply according to the label. Anything beyond that, we're putting our license at risk as well as we're essentially breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just go crazy, just bomb a house like people say.
Oh, you can't?
We can.
Oh, I was going to
So
say, I've done
where-
that.
Now, where you have homeowners can go to Home Depot, Walmart, whatever,
Right.
and buy your fogger cans.
Yeah.
There's a label on there that tells you how many you're supposed to put per square feet. Does that always get
People
followed?
don't listen.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so seriously, like, I honestly have no idea. Is that a good idea as a homeowner to just bomb a house, or is it not? Because, for context, I bought one. It's a block house on a slab, and it has huge magnolias around it. It's a hospital house. When I bought it, that sucker, I mean, thousands of dead cockroaches. And there wasn't a bit of food in it. It wasn't air conditioned. Like, I was like, holy cow. So I ended up bombing it, I think just because I didn't know any better. But I've never wanted to do that since because I think I learned. Do you think there's really much to bombing
So,
it?
There's certain scenarios that application can help
Okay.
and does work.
Okay.
Now, let's say if it's, we're dealing with an infestation as a pest control company and the homeowner farms, it makes it harder for our job.
Really?
Because what that can do is that actually push those insects deeper into the cracks and crevices so that we can't get our treatment down and our treatment's ineffective. So it just extends the period and the amount of times that we have to come out and treat if a homeowner does it. I typically see that a lot more in apartment complexes. Just lower income style where you run into German roaches infested in kitchens, things like that. And this is a roach that's brought in. This is one that comes
Right.
from outside.
Right.
A female carries 30 to 45 eggs. Their life cycle is about 100 days, and they constantly reproduce. So a little bit of math there to let you know how fast these things get out of control if you don't treat them. Fogging that situation is very difficult for us.
What about fleas?
I wanted to ask about that. Fleas are a mess.
So
Bomb or don't bomb?
I prefer that you don't.
Okay. That's good to know.
So the problem with it, obviously, with fleas, big part is vacuuming. So we send out a prep list every time a flea treatment comes up to the client before we go out and treat. It gives you detailed instructions what to do before, during, and after our treatments. Top of the list, vacuuming twice a day.
Sheesh.
So
Holy
what that
cow.
vacuuming does, one, it's going to suck up the two, it's going to vibrate the ground to make those eggs hatch. So when those eggs hatch,
Yeah.
you're bringing those out. So they come into contact with your treatment. We use a couple different products. We use residuals, quick kills, things like that. One of the products can actually kill all the life cycles up to the 6 or 7 months and maybe a little bit more than that.
Wow.
So that's where that continued vacuuming after the fact really comes into play. You constantly make those eggs hatch to a limit.
Fleas are a mess.
We've dealt with a couple of flea, not tons, but a few. It's
Just a couple.
Yeah.
One was like really bad.
Generally, if it's bad, I anticipate 3 treatments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a one and done. You know, and then it also plays in, are there pets involved, things like that. You know, because at the same time that we treat, we need to have the pets done. So they're monthly topical, or if it's a pill, all needs to be done at the same timeline because of the life cycle of the flea. So it eliminates everything at one time. So
Yeah.
if you stagger it, you end up missing a life cycle there, and you continue to have to treat. So that's where that detailed prep list comes in.
I have a friend in Chattanooga, and she has a short-term rental, and she had a neighbor that used the home 3 or 4 times. Like he'd move in, stay, move out. She said every time he left, they had fleas. But you're right. You know, you have to treat the pet
Yeah.
because if it comes back, I mean, yeah. I was like,
Pet,
what?
Yeah. It's almost always the pet that freaking bring it, right?
Yeah, especially if you have people that travel, they take the dogs to dog parks, and that's one of the quickest ways to bring it in. And then too, what I always tell, especially clients that have pets, a product called Capstar. It's just, you can give it to your pet 1 every 24 hours on top of their topical. You will literally see fleas fall off of it within 30 minutes.
Really?
As soon
What?
as a flea bites it, it kills it. And
What is
you
it?
can get it's Capstar. It's little tablets. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from PetSmart.
Yeah.
Super easy. I always recommend that to my clients that are having flea issues.
Wow.
And you can do 1 tablet every 24 hours.
Cool.
Wow.
Just another side of it that you can help and educate the client to problem solve. So
Nobody wants fleas. I mean, I'd rather have cockroaches than fleas. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
horrible.
it is.
Cockroaches don't scare me anymore. You just
Right.
see so many of them.
Right.
Well, and I know they don't live in the house. I know they're just coming in. I don't want them to come in. But fleas,
Yeah.
man, they're reproducing in the house. No.
They're jumping on you. You're
Yes.
like, what is on me?
Oh, I've done a
It's
million
them.
showings like that in Savannah where I'm like trying to video for my client and I can feel them on my calves and I'm like,
Uh,
stay focused. I'm like, it's terrible.
there are fleas in
we
here.
we just had one yesterday. It was an investor purchase. Absolute mess. Fleas and German roaches.
Ugh,
Very, very bad.
wow.
I think it's one of those ones that it just somebody went AWOL and left everything there as is. Kill power. So,
Yeah,
just
that's such a bad idea. How do people not care about their property and just turning the power off for months? I've seen that where they just turn it off and then they're just like, what? There are issues? Yeah. Okay, so for me as an agent getting fleas multiple times and I want to go get back in my car, but then I don't because I could, you feel them jump on you.
yeah.
What's your advice at that point? Because I don't really have you following me around, which I probably need you to. But how do I make sure that when I get in my car, I don't have any of those fleas with me? Do you have any advice on that?
That is a difficult one without spraying pesticide on you. That's kind of hard. Obviously, you want to try to shake off as much as you can to knock that kind of stuff off, but get away from the property that you're at.
Right,
so
right,
you're
right.
not standing in the infested areas.
Right, exactly.
Whenever I do a flea inspection. I don't do this because obviously I want to see if the fleas are jumping on me.
Right.
But if I go onto a property that I know there's active infestation of fleas, I'll use a product like Off Deep Woods, a bug repellent that repels fleas, ticks, and things like that. I'll spray, mid-thigh down.
Okay.
I won't have a flea jumping.
Okay.
So preventative is the best
Dang.
approach.
We have to carry
But
around
then-
some off with us.
But then we smell like off all day. Like-
Oh,
So they're-
better
they're-
than having police follow you around.
yeah, that's true.
So, and you can get creative. There's new products out there that have no fragrance to them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Off just came out with one of those.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So you can venture into that as well if you're worried about this.
Amazon has this green tin. It looks like tobacco, and I go like that I'm at the baseball field a lot, and you get the no-see-ums, and I put that behind my ears and maybe and that's been the best thing for the no-see-ums.
Right.
That I don't normally encounter fleas except for when I am looking nice and have something where to go right after I do this showing. That's when I find fleas. Always is
You
when
call
I'm
them
like,
museums?
Well, no-see-ums are different than fleas. No, you know, at the ball field had that you.
What, sand gnats?
Yeah. I'm
You call
sorry.
them no-see-ums?
Yeah. Is that wrong?
I've
Sand
never
gnats?
heard. I've heard gnats.
Saying that's no-see-ums, same.
Okay.
We're talking about the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And where the no-see-um came through is like your screen. You have the no-see-um screen for like a screen porch.
Okay.
That's how they describe how small
They can get
things
through that
are,
screen.
so they can't get through there.
Oh, okay.
Little play
Okay.
on it, but you know, and that's just a couple different things. It's just visually looking through as well
Yeah.
as the size of
Yeah,
the screen
totally.
there.
Well, and you don't see them, but
You
you're
don't.
constantly just like
Gnats are the worst
horrible.
thing ever.
Yeah, and almost impossible to do anything.
You can't get rid of them.
So
You just,
they reproduce so fast.
Oh,
And just,
goodness.
by the time you kill what's there,
they're already,
everything's coming back again.
Yeah.
So and to effectively kill those.
Yeah.
would-
But sand gnats, those aren't going to be inside a property. I've never seen them inside a property.
No,
So
unless you
yeah.
have somebody that leaves a door wide open.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, that's where you're
nah.
gonna have stuff coming out.
Some people will hate Savannah just because of the sand gnats. Like I've had people move here and they're like, I hate Savannah
Yeah.
because there's sand gnats. And I'm just used to them now. Like, you just let them eat you.
Do you think there's truth to that saying that once you live for a while and drink the water, they don't bug you as much? Really?
Yeah.
See, I thought it was
think-
true.
I think you just kind of adapt to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going, what gnats? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I'm still. So, because that's only in certain areas, which is weird. Like, so I live in Richmond Hill. If I'm at home, never get eaten by sand gnats. But if I go to Richmond Hill High School, at the baseball
true.
field, eating up.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, is
So
there
that's,
like
that's going to play into the same thing with the soil composition,
so? Okay, soil. It's a soil. thing,
moisture, and
okay.
things like that.
So, okay.
they're going to be a little more active in certain areas than others. But typically, it's kind of like between Macon and Jacksonville
Yeah.
is your sand gnat kind of zone.
Really? I
Like
didn't know that.
Yeah. We
So
had
like
a,
you know, if you go, let's say you go to Truist Park, you don't get eaten up by sand gnats.
Huh.
we literally had a baseball team named the
Yeah.
Savannah Sand
You remember the
Gnats.
sand
Yeah,
gnats?
absolutely.
That's a
Oh,
great
that's not
name.
bad.
It used to be the Cardinals.
Oh,
before the
really?
sand gnats.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Now they're the bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show my age on that one.
So
Interesting. Yeah, that predates me.
yeah. So if you're coming to Savannah, just be aware of
Yeah.
some
You're
sand
going to have
gnats.
insects.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, like you said, pest control is a thriving industry. I talk it up there with, you know, air conditioning, HVAC companies. You know, you want AC here in Savannah. We
Dude.
also want pest control. If you
Yeah.
don't have it, you will have
Right.
bugs.
No doubt.
So nobody wants to live with that.
Well, and to guess, if you're going to come to any tropical environment, not just Savannah, you're going to see a bug. It is not, like you said, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, are you really that shocked that you're seeing a bug? You're in a tropical environment. Like,
Yeah.
that's where they live. We're not in the desert.
Yeah.
But-
I've had clients that have shown up from New York and they've never seen a roach in their life
Really?
and freak out.
From New York?
It's like there was this massive cockroach that flew down. I swear he tried to get me. Just freaking out. And you know, it just comes down to, like you said, you know, hey, we're in Savannah. They're here.
When I'd rather encounter a cockroach than a fire ant. Because
what?
a fire ant, because they're going to bite. Like anything that doesn't bite me, you know, whatever. But I don't like being bitten. And I'm from Tennessee. I mean, the ants don't bite. So when I first discovered fire ants, I was
Sure.
like, what in the world? I'd never been scared of ants before.
Yeah.
They just,
They-
it's
those
totally
things
different.
bite- those things bite the crap out
Oh,
of me.
horrible. When I first moved here, I was like, I'm going to buy an anteater. Like, I wanted an anteater.
Their venom and a fire ant, it correlates to, I don't have exact numbers, but it is extremely deadly. The fire ant bites, if you actually were to
Really?
lay in a fire ant bed and let them
Sit
just
in it,
consume
yeah.
you, it can actually kill you. Their venom is that potent.
Oh my
I don't know who
gosh.
wants
Well,
to
it
work
feels
in
like
this.
it.
It
I
is
mean, I'm not
absolutely-
surprised.
Yeah.
So, and
Wow.
like, you don't have to be allergic to it for that to happen. And yeah, I cannot remember if it was cyanide or what they compared it to, but it is extremely serious.
I had no idea.
So
So would you say fire ants, sand gnats, and cockroaches, those are things that are not a danger to your home? They're just annoying, right?
obviously you don't want to have ants in your home, just for the reason they do bite.
Right.
And
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, that's, they'll essentially they can build a nest inside your walls and infest your home.
Oh, I
and
hadn't
they
seen
get
that
into your
before.
food, stuff like that. And that's another sign too that if there is a termite treatment on a home, termiticide has a very same effect on ants as it does termites.
Oh.
So if you see ant mounds built up all around a foundation, you know that that soil treatment isn't doing what it's supposed to. So that is another sign.
Interesting.
Little things to look for just to kind of add to what we were talking about prior.
Yeah.
Um, that's always like for me it's a red flag. So, 'cause they can actually termites can tunnel and pass right through ant mounds undetected, even though they are enemies. So
Talk about rodents. What
Yeah.
kind of rodents damage have you seen to homes?
extensive.
Really?
From just things not being addressed in an attic or addressed in a crawl space, having those open crawls, or not having that foundation barrier to keep them from getting in, infesting, getting up through your plumbing, accessing your homes, tearing up your insulation. They get up in the attic, defecate everywhere, they nest, they tear things up, chew on wires. And then they find a hole to get in, they chew it out, make it larger. That's not the only hole they're going to make. They're going to continue making holes. So it can snowball very fast.
Yeah.
2 rats can turn into 1,200 in a calendar year.
Ugh.
So just that fast, they reproduce and multiply.
Sheesh.
Wow. And did you say your pest control, barrier affects rodents and?
It's a separate program.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
Talk about
So,
that a little bit.
With rodents, typically, like on the exterior of your home, you're going to set up bait stations. That's your first line of defense. So those bait stations have rodenticide. They're in a tier 1 child and pet proof
Right.
device, so that way nothing can reach in, grab it. So you always want to use your pesticide and your products towards the targeted pest only. That's just part of IPM, integrated management pest control. So, and in doing that, you set up that first perimeter. Now, if you have holes, things like that, you're going to want to close those up. So once you close those up, you set traps on the inside. That eliminates what's on the inside of the home because it's not going to get out. And then for the future, you continue to run over those bait stations, and that eliminates those rodents and wipes them out. That's just kind of like your quick and dirty general how you would approach it.
Yeah.
Just something sight unseen.
So if I call you and I say, Kevin, when I lay in bed at night, I hear scratching and clawing in my attic. What do you assume that is? What's the first thing?
Depending on the time and the area where we're at, it's either going to be rodents, so roof rats, things like that, or it's going to be squirrels.
Okay.
Squirrels will
That's
dive
it.
right into your attic. So,
Why? We had a squirrel issue forever. It took forever to get rid of that dang thing.
Yeah.
Why?
so
We're
squirrels
squirrel people.
Squirrels are small, so it's very hard to trap. So with that, you basically this is where you take your experience and sealing up the home. So you go around, you find these access points that squirrels can or have used, seal everything up except for one that you know they're using, install a one-way door. So they can get out, they can't come back in. Give it a period of time, re-inspect, make sure nothing's going on, the client's not hearing anything, seal the rest of it up, remove the one-way door.
You good.
Yeah. What exactly does a one-way squirrel door look like? I cannot picture that.
So you've seen the Havelhart metal traps, the metal traps that have the 2 doors.
Okay.
Rodent or anything like that goes in, the doors slam. So it's very similar. So it looks like a rectangular tube, wire mesh. It's got a spring door on the inside. And it attaches to, let's say, like a soffit where squirrels are getting in.
Okay.
It'll attach to that so the squirrel can push its way out. But the angle of the door, if they push, it stays closed. So essentially, it's a one-way.
Oh.
So they have for raccoons as well.
Okay.
Recently had a raccoon infestation in an attic,
Oh.
and raccoons are even smaller.
Infestation. So more,
And they're bigger.
multiple.
That's a problem.
So larger one-way door, and this actually one-way door has 2 doors to it because a raccoon's smart enough to pull open the door to get back in, so you have to double door. So you have to put your thinking cap on when you start diving into wildlife.
What are your thoughts on those boxes that emit a signal that we can't hear, but supposedly the rodent can hear? I've seen them at Lowe's. Are you a fan?
We don't use them. I see where a lot of people use them for like mold control and things like that, for like ground moles.
Oh.
They also use them for like deer wildlife, stuff to keep away from, let's say if you have like a little garden,
Oh, yeah.
you want to keep that kind of stuff out. Um, I'm not going to say it doesn't work. I personally have never noticed it. I do know some of them you can hear. They're quite annoying.
Oh.
But it just, I can't really speak on it. because
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's how we got rid of the squirrel in our attic, was
Yeah.
that it still is ticking to this day. It's probably 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then this is kind of a ridiculous story, but I happened to be at my in-laws at Christmas, and my sister-in-law was having a rat issue. And I was like, oh. So I went to Lowe's and I bought her one of those that I had. And she was like, every year she tells me, that was the best Christmas gift you ever. And I kept saying, Brenda, it's not a Christmas gift. This is just a rat thing, whatever box. And she's always like, that's the best Christmas gift. I'm like, shh, don't tell people I gave you that for Christmas. I sound like this horrible sister-in-law. But we've had pretty good luck with it for larger rodents.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
You'll see a lot of like in the landings on Skidway Island and
Okay.
stuff like that. People will run those because the deer will just.
I've heard the
they
deer are
wipe out
crazy.
Your vegetation. So.
I didn't know those would detract deer. Wow.
Yeah. So there's
Okay.
a ton of deer out on Skidway Island.
I've heard
So
that.
You'll see where people have to run fencing, netting, and stuff like it. They have ornamental trees and nice shrubs and things like that. Deer love to eat it. So that's where you'll see a little bit more of that.
And you probably can't do much for deer, I would assume.
No, there's a product called Nature's Defense. It's they make it in a granular, a liquid, and they make it in packets. It's all natural, and it has a scent to it that I think about 28 animals they've tested out that absolutely hate it. It includes snakes. You'll see a product called Snake Away, very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
And this Nature's Defense, like I said, is a granular 3-pound bag. I think it does about 100 linear feet, and you got to put it out monthly. So you create a perimeter of where you're trying to keep something out of, and it'll help kind of push things away. So where that becomes real effective is if, like a strip mall, you have a restaurant, neighbors are having rat issues, but you want to prevent your restaurant from having that, where they can cross through. You can set those packets up, one packet every 10 feet, and just kind of line a perimeter, and it'll help keep rodents from coming in. It's not going to prevent them completely, but it's less attractive.
Yeah.
So this is a drop ceiling. You'd say put them up in the ceiling every 10 feet. Interesting. You know a lot of practical stuff. We're going to have rodent and pest-free houses
Yeah,
from now on,
shoot.
Chandler.
I want to ask, do you have like a bulletproof package that you recommend? That's like, all right, I'm gonna bulletproof your home so 0 animals can.
It's difficult to really do that because
Yeah.
every scenario is each home's going to be different.
Yeah, because if I buy a home, I just want to hey, do everything you can to.
Right.
Yeah.
To
And
seal it
really-
up.
sucker
Really
up.
block it out. And that's where that 10-point inspection is going to hit.
Okay.
It's going to dive in all the way down to ground moles are included in that. So your general pests, ants, roaches, spiders, earwigs, silverfish, things like that you typically see inside of a home. Your rodents, your wildlife exclusion stuff. So like when you have an open crawl, how would we close that up? Or if there's holes that we know, hey, this is big enough for a rat to get into.
Yeah.
How to seal that up properly and what it would cost, down to foundation where you have vents. So you have proper ventilation. So this is going to play into the moisture in your crawl space as well. We install foundation vents that are, the proper size. We make sure that you have the adequate amount of ventilation for your crawl space as well.
So the 10-point inspection is kind of that.
That's your list.
It's pretty
Yeah,
intense.
it's a good punch list. It's going to detail just about everything. And then beyond that, obviously, there's, that's going to be on site where we assess that, if it's not included in this, hey, this is an issue. This is how we can resolve it. This is what it'll cost. And we can bundle things together, help you save a little bit of money, take care of all of it. Or if you just want to bite one thing off at a time, we can do that too.
Yeah. See, I'm all about being proactive and
Yeah.
not reactive.
Exactly.
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, and it's like, yeah.
So it's just big things, especially in Savannah. You're going to want to have general pest control on a routine service. you're going to have your termite protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then especially if you live in a home or a residential area that has alleyways behind each
Okay.
home,
Mhm.
that's
Have
where
a
people
lot
put
of
their
those.
yard trash, their garbage, and it's always overgrown. Perfect harbors for rodents. So that's where your
That's
rodent
true.
prevention's come from.
So that's where you want. Okay.
So what would you do if we lived in the historic district and we had an alleyway? What would be your recommendation there?
First thing we're going to do is set up bait stations
Mm.
and create that first, that first perimeter kind of blockade.
Cool.
That's going to be your initial. Now, if you're not having any issues inside, do that. Monitor how much is getting consumed,
Mm.
so then you know how much activity is going on.
Wow, interesting.
That's what's really good about running those bait stations in the out like that is each block is 20 grams. So you're able to see, how much consumption's having, where's the activity coming from, because the stations are placed, not just all in one area, so that you can adjust and so it's not just the fact that you're eliminating, but you're also learning on what they're doing and how
Okay.
to adapt to better, protect.
So you're saying the back of the house got eaten quickly and the one in the front of the house got eaten slowly, so we know they're in the back, and yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So you're able to really kind of hone in on what's going on. So it's just all part of monitoring.
What's your favorite part about what you do? What gets you excited? What do you go, oh, fun?
Next to meeting new people all the time, I would say dealing with wildlife and the extinction side of it.
Yeah,
Um,
we have a raccoon.
Because it's, or getting calls for snake removal, things like that. People are like, are you absolutely crazy for doing this? I don't know how you do it. And that's the fun stuff.
I'll bet.
Snake
Where you really
removal,
have
heck
to
no.
get somewhere, really dive in and adapt to what's going on in the problem solving.
Right.
That's one thing I love
That sounds hard.
is the problem solving side.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. It's like, you can tell somebody something's wrong all day long, but if you can't provide a solution, you're not going to, you won't be successful.
Yeah.
What's the craziest rodent situation you've been called in on?
That's tough.
Any alligators?
There's no alligators.
No alligators?
No alligators. We've had a handful of snakes pulled out of crawl spaces.
Oh, I would not want to deal with a snake in a crawl space because you're crawling under there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't move too fast.
Can't move fast. Yeah, that's the thing.
So, gosh, rodent-wise, not too bad. I have had situations where you poke your head up in an attic, shine the light, you have light eyes looking back at you.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
That's always fun. So you know you're not alone at that point.
So when we go out of the attic at that point, you go into the attic at that point.
We pop open a bait station and a rat comes out. We call them at lunch or something, just little things like that. So it's
Oh my.
not really just like, one in particular. It's just the little stuff that adds up.
I was thinking you had gotten called on a family of raccoons once or something.
So most recently, I did have ended up coming across a litter of three baby raccoons inside of a chimney. I was able to, the time I found them, disassemble the flue on the chimney, reach up and remove the three, and safely rehome.
That's
So,
good.
It was. We always try, obviously, there's certain things whenever we trap that we're required to do by law, unfortunately. But if there's an opportunity that we can rehome and return them back to where they're supposed to be, we always want to. So,
If you ever find baby squirrels, I'm your girl. I hope you know that. I've never actually said that to you, but
yeah.
we love to raise baby squirrels in my house.
I've got a real estate broker that's the same way with raccoons.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Well, you just have all different
Yeah.
rodents covered.
So
You have any?
prior to real estate, she was a wildlife rehabilitation
Oh, wow.
specialist. So she absolutely loves it.
Do you have any snake people that you can call when you find a snake?
No, we just typically live in
I would
Okay.
not.
obviously not on the property, but it's certain things too. Obviously, we have to report venomous snakes whenever we find them, things like that.
Really?
But then, obviously if it's non-venomous, we'll get it to a safe location to where it's not going to invade somebody else's home or things like that. We release them. So typically try to get out of the city limits.
You ever dealt with some skunks?
No, no skunks.
When I lived in Texas, they got into the house,
Yes.
and we would trap them and release them miles away, and they would come back. We had to kill them, and
Yeah, so
the neighbors
that's-
told us, they said, you have to kill them, they'll come back, and they were right.
That's where trapping the raccoons, I think they've tested up to 20 miles, and the raccoon comes back.
Ah,
20 miles. Whoa.
that's
So,
crazy.
yeah, they will find their way back. So they're extremely resilient, especially if it's a mother with young. She's going to do everything she can to get back. So
That's impressive.
Unfortunately, that's where they, with the laws, if you do trap, you have to use this. It's not. But
Yeah.
If there's a way, we try to prevent that. But obviously, if it falls under that category, our hands are tied.
Man. I guess we don't have skunks around here, do we?
I've never seen one.
There's very few, not here in kind of like in
That's good.
Savannah.
That's probably
You
why I
get
moved
further
here.
out in the country, you'll occasionally run across that, but it's not like a nuisance animal here, like you would see like possums, armadillos, things
Yeah.
like that.
Uh-huh.
So
Do armadillos cause, I mean, I know they tear up the ground, but do they do anything to real estate, armadillos?
yeah, they'll burrow and get under your foundation, get into your crawl space. So that's where you can run into issues depending on how the foundation is established. The piers, you can actually collapse a pier.
Oh,
underneath
wow.
the home from armadillos.
What do you do about armadillos?
You have to trap. They have no natural predator. You talk to a DNR agent, he'll tell you to shoot them. The only predator is a car top. So nothing messes with them.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. So now, on the other hand, possums are fantastic. So possums, they cannot carry rabies. They fleas, ticks, tons of insects. They're great to have. Obviously, you don't want them in your crawl space.
Yeah.
So that's where having things closed up is top notch.
Man, I wish they weren't so ugly.
They're so ugly.
So last Wednesday, I pulled one out of the crawl space while I was doing a termite inspection, and
No extra charge.
quite large. It was part and closing the deal, so we made it happen.
Was there an extra charge for that, or was
There
that
would
just?
be if nothing else was going on, or they called me out specifically for that. Yeah.
But you just happened upon it.
Yeah, I crawling in there. It was a crawl space, and made my first pass. And as I was coming back, I noticed I wasn't by myself.
Word. Oh my
So,
word.
I wouldn't like being in a crawl
midday,
space.
it was sleeping, just kind of nested up in there.
I feel like that's like a horror movie. You know, like you're just crawling along, doing your job, minding your own business, and like, ah,
Yeah.
wow.
Very interesting sometimes.
This
Yeah.
has been great, Kevin. I've learned a ton.
Yeah, no, that was good. I know what I'm doing when I look at houses now.
Yeah.
$50. I will have it
Yeah, I was
ready.
about to say $50. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
good amount.
Once we get that clearance letter thing knocked out of the way, generally my inspections have no charge.
Yeah.
So, biggest thing, obviously with a clearance letter, there's liability, there's paperwork, things involved, and that's what there's a charge. But beyond that, my inspections or estimates have no charge.
So as a property manager, if you have our short-term rental on your regular rotation for pest control and a guest sees a bug, will you help with that? Like what would be something like that where it was between treatments but someone's freaking out about something? How does that work?
So generally, if we can get to it as soon as possible, we do. At that point, I'm sure they would contact you as the management company. The management company would contact me or my office and say, hey, this is the address, this is what we've seen, how soon can you get out to it? And then you take those steps.
That's great.
And in general, a lot of times too, just depending on who's renting, they don't want to see somebody there. They're like, hey, I just wanted to let you know there's an issue. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want you treating while I'm staying here. But can you check it immediately?
Yeah.
Just for your next one. So that's your nicer note.
Yeah.
Right.
So there.
Some people want you to come in right then with your
Yeah.
shoe and kill it.
Yeah.
Like-
So and in that case, if it's obviously feasible, then by all means we jump right in.
That's great.
Cool.
That's really good. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And we're looking forward to having you at our meetup Thursday night. I know you're going to get even more questions Thursday night because,
Good.
boy, that room, it's like the whole room will be like this when we have a good speaker. I love it.
Yeah.
But we're really looking forward to having you. But, we just really appreciate that you're a big help to our investor community. And I'm always like, anyone that's going to be like that, I'm going to shovel as much business as I can. And now that I know even more about what you do, I'll be spreading the word. So, we really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
As
So,
well. Yeah.
thank you.